And welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win? Pokemon Team Creation Series, the Who Would Win edition. No, by the way, I don't plan to ever really do a versus of, because someone has asked me, I don't really plan to do a versus of the Pokemon teams I have created, because that'd be a very niche group of people. Maybe one day I'll do one just to see how the response is, and if it ultimately ends up that people really liked it, like if I get like at least 200 views or something on that video, then I'll go and that doesn't sound like a lot, but for me a lot, but for some of my videos that would be a lot, and I'd be extremely happy to see that. But if I get like, I'll even go lower to like 150. If I get like 150 views on that video, then maybe one day I'll do it. But anyway, Dark Magician Girl, what is her Pokemon team? This proves to be tricky. The reason for that is Dark Magician Girl doesn't really have much of a character. She's a dual monster. Now, she does exist as a dual monster spirit and does have a bit of a character within the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, as we've seen. And she is, in fact, the reincarnation of a character in the Pharaoh's past, who was, I believe it's Mahan, who was the apprentice to Maha, who became who became the Dark Magician. But that doesn't make it all that easier to figure out what exactly is her Pokemon team. If she, as a character, what little character she has, how do I do a team for that? So I thought I'd break this down a little bit. Let's first get out a couple things out of the way right now. We need a Dark Magician Girl Pokemon on team. And I do remember that she did duel with Jaden in GX. So now she used Magician's Valkyria in that movie, or in that episode. But I think we can kind of substitute that for Dark Magician Girl. And I used Kirlia for this. And the fact that she played 2, so I put 2 Kirlia on the team. Now, why did I do this? Why not Gardevoir? Well, my initial thought was Gardevoir, but I realized Dark Magician Girl is supposed to be an apprentice magician. She has her own level of power, and she can surpass the Dark Magician, but only with the Dark Magician and multiple Dark Magicians are dead and in the graveyard. Without that, she is weaker than the Dark Magician, just overall outright. And I think doing Gardevoir doesn't work, especially when we're going to use our Dark Magician counterpart, because she's not on the same footing as Dark Magician, which, let's get Dark Magician out of the way. Gallade is my Dark Magician stand-in. Now, one of the big things about, let's call it magic in the Pokemon world, is that there are 2 types that generally represent this. Fairy and Psychic. For the longest time until Fairy came around, Psychic was the representation for this. Abracadabra and Alakazam are based off Psychics, but their name also implies the whole, spell casting craft of, Abracadabra, Alakazam. Like that's what their names invoke, because that's magic words. So Psychic has always been a bit of a representation of the magic type, we'll call it, for years. Then Fairy came along, and honestly, only some levels of Fairies, just like some Psychic types, really kind of represent mysticism in any real way. But honestly, more Psychic types represent it than Fairy types. I look at, say, weirdly enough, Meditite and Medicham. I see mysticism and gurus and stuff like that when I look at them, because that's kind of what they're based off of to a certain degree. Then they're psychic fighting types. I think of Celebi. Now, Celebi, in theory, should be retconned to be a fairy type, but it's a psychic type, and it being kind of a representation of a pixie, it kind of uses magic. Victini is all these mythicals are kind of represented with psychic types, and they seem to be a representation of magic to some degree. And so I felt it was appropriate to go with Psychic for this, and the counterpart to Gardevoir is a Gallade, and a Kirlia turns into both. So now, and Gallades are always male versus Gardevoirs, which can be one or the other. But I believe Gallades are in fact always male. I think. Let me double check that real quick, because there's that famous not safe for work meme where a trainer in Hisui finds an alpha Gallade and start just like, jiggling his head between their Gallade's chest. And then you see a big white rod stuck between his cheeks. And you just suddenly see his face go, and the Gallade's eyes go right. And then you see, oh yeah, by the way, the Gardevoir. And the Gardevoir's like, by the way, Gardevoirs can be this % male. So that's a fun little meme to be sure. But yeah, where is Gallade here? Oh, Psychic, there we go. Gallade. Where are Gallades always? I'm pretty sure they're always male. I'm almost positive they are. 1 second here. Gallades, are they always male? Yes, Gallades are always male. Gardevoirs, however, are not always male. So there you go. But yeah. And so beyond this, I also wanted to add a mon that was just kind of represented a magician to some degree. And the closest I had to that was Mr. Mime. Because Mr. Mime was the last one I added on the team because I filled out the team with other mon that I think worked, but it wasn't perfect. So if you can think of a better mon after these remaining 2 to put on the team, let me know. Really, Mr. Mime is the filler mon. That's the best way I can put it. Beyond that, though, we have seen her represented several times as a dual spirit. So I thought Miss Magnus, oh God, I can never remember. Miss Magus, I think it is. I always have trouble with the damn name. Who is, I believe Miss Magus is still just a pure ghost type, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe, because you would think looking at that mon, it's either like a poison or a dark type, but as far as I know, yeah, Miss Magus is still just a ghost type. It's a cool ghost type. I like the fact that Mischievous got some love in Gen 4. But yeah, it's a witch, it's a spirit, it's witch, sorcery, magic. I just thought for to represent the dual spirit aspect of her, that would make sense. But the last one, and the actual, well, let me get this stats real quick. I don't think Gallade is the stronger between the 2 due to the base stat total. But let me double check that real quick. What's Gallade's base stat total here? Gallade's base stat total, if I can, I hate adding up on the fly here. Is it 140, 650, 605, 305, 370, 450. And then, yeah, no, okay, no. This would be her ace. The only other thing I could think of at the time making this video, and let me know if you can think of anything else, is the Waking the Dragons arc with her, which I've just recently finished up in my own Yu-Gi-Oh series, What If series. Is the Waking the Dragons arc, where Yugi combined the Eye of Timaeus with Dark Magician Girl to create Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. So why not throw an Eye of Timaeus based Pokemon on here, which clearly means it's a dragon? And honestly, at that point, I'm just like, okay, I just need a dragon that looks as close to the Timaeus dragon as possible. Now, I could, in theory, have done like a shiny Dragonite, because that is green. Thinking on it now, that definitely was an option I could have done. However, Timaeus isn't, he is green, but he's like that turquoise lizard green. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can find anything else that works on any level. And even though Timaeus, Hermos, and Crinius are considered legendary dragons, I didn't really like the idea of a legendary Pokemon on the team. So I went the other way. We went with Salamence. And Salamence has a Mega. You could argue maybe she has a Mega with it. This could represent using the Eye of Timaeus. But it looks actually, I think, the closest to Timaeus in terms of color. And even a little bit in its face design, because Timaeus does have these like finned ears. So it's actually, there's red in there, which Timaeus doesn't have. Honestly, if I were to hypothetically, really quickly here, do also like a Hermos Pokemon, Pokemon that represented Hermos real quick. Actually, there's a couple options I could use here. I would probably go either Tyrantrum just on appearance alone, Como because it's a fighting type and Hermos turns into equipment, or maybe Koraidon. Actually, Koraidon might be the best of the 3 because, actually, appearance-wise, Tyrantrum looks the closest to Hermos. Maybe next time I'll actually throw a picture of Hermos on there to kind of illustrate. Koraidon, though, it's a fighting and dragon type, and it also is very much red like Hermos. Critias is a weird one because it fuses with traps and it's a very like angular looking dragon. I might consider Dragapult, although I would not hold my guns to that very much. But honestly, just from a physical standpoint, there really isn't much options for Critias. Maybe one of either Latias or Latias. Yeah, I'll be honest. With Critias, that's some slim pickings right there. Heramos actually gave me the most options between any of them. But anyway, so yeah, this would be the Pokemon team for the Dark Magician Girl, in my opinion. Now, if I were to fully evolve it, we'd have 2 Gardevoirs on the team, but I wouldn't. And you have 3 Fairy types on the team, 4 Psychic types, 1 Fighting, a Dragon Flying, and a Ghost type. This team would get its teeth kicked in by Ghost types so hard. And it's kind of neutral against, actually, it's not bad against Dark. Their Psychic types are hurt by it, but their Fairy types make up for it, as well as the Fighting. So Dark's not that big of an issue. But these guys get their teeth kicked in by Ghost types. The Fairy's a little somewhat immune, but doesn't really matter. Bug types are also a problem for a quarter of this team, and actually the majority of this team, 2/3 of this team. They're in trouble with bug types. Because Fairy has no special resistance to bug, and Fighting, it's not weak, but it's not strong against bug either. Apart from that, though, I mean, they handle Psychic types fairly easily. Fighting types are screwed. Dragon types are pretty screwed as well. Same with Fighting types. So yeah, except for like their big weakness to Ghost on this team is actually not badly balanced. So, yeah, I mean, that's my opinion, though. What do you think? What would you do for the Pokemon team for the Dark Magician Girl? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you folks next time.